The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pack wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
Hey, NC State wrestling fans, thanks for listening to a brand new episode of the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins, where we talk all things NC State wrestling. I'm your host, Brian Reinhardt. I'm the Director of Athletics Digital Communications here at NC State and the Communications Director for the Wolfpack wrestling team. As always, I'm joined by the head coach of the Wolfpack, Pat Popolizio.
Ready to roll.
Number 3 in the books. This one's exciting. We're going to be kind of previewing the Wolfpack for this year. No special guest or anything. We're just going to roll right into your lineup, so I hope you're ready.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to talk about this week and excited about what some of the competitions we got coming up.
Wolfpack fans, thanks for lending us your ears in this week's episode. If you missed any of our previous episodes, we strongly encourage you to go back into the archives and get all caught up. Before we dive into the new episode, we do ask that you go a little bit out of your way to help the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Help us make it as successful as we can by, first of all, hit that subscribe button, whether it's on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Android, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Hit that subscription button and make sure you get to download the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast every time that we put on a new episode. Then, head over to iTunes, hit that 5-star rating, give it a review. It will help us out more than you can imagine. Do your part in leaving a rating and a review, and we will do our part to bring you the best content each time out. I'd like to give a special thank you to Barrister09, who not only gave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but wrote a great review. Pat, it feels good to hear that people are really liking this podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. And hats off to you for the hard work that you've been putting in behind this. I know there's a lot that goes on. It's going to continue to brand our program. More importantly, get the exposure of these guys in our program for all their hard work and commitment. So it's definitely a positive things happening here.
Great episode last time out. If you haven't listened, please go back in the archives. But you had your new assistant, Donnie Vincent, on talk about all NC State wrestling, why he came down to Raleigh. And I think our Wolfpack fans really got a good chance to meet him.
Yeah, no doubt. Donnie's been a great addition to the program. He's obviously had a big impact this weekend in the room. All around, recruiting, you name it. He's been doing everything he needs to fill his part and what we need within our program. We're still we're working hard on his interview skills. That'll come with time and experience. As that and his dressing after this weekend. We got some. We can hit on that a little later.
Well, we saw you both at the All-Star Classic. We were wondering where the ties were. We got the suit jackets, but no ties yet. So I guess that was an exhibition.
Yeah, exhibition and Sundays usually is a no tie day.
Speaking of that, All-Star Classic, great way for you guys to start the season. You had 3 seniors going up, Kevin Jack, Pete Renda, and Mike Machiavello was actually just invited up on Friday. All 3 came back winners. How great was it for you guys that weekend up in Princeton?
Oh, great way for these guys to kick off their season, for one, as individuals, and then 2, for our team. I think that just sets the tone for everything that we need to do this season. Machiavello got a late call, so for him to come in, make weight that week, and go out there and compete, I know that was that's always good to see. Your athletes are ready to compete on call, last minute notice, and I think that speaks volume for the kind of character that he has. But yeah, great event, and most importantly, like you said, coming back with 3 wins, I thought that made a really big statement for our program.
One other piece of news, we're actually taping this before signing day, so we can't talk about who you're signing. But I do want to say this is going to be one of your bigger classes, one that you guys are really excited about.
Very, very excited about this class. The 2 things I take from this is, one, you always want to fill your needs, which I truly believe we've taken care of all our needs as far as what's going to happen down the road with the way our roster and weights and how things are going to play out. And then more than anything, I think all these guys fit the mentality and philosophy of what we wanted for our program. And I think that's when you get some good things happening. That's when you start seeing good results. Combine that with one of the top recruiting classes in the country from 2 years ago, it's going to be a very good thing for our program.
And in our first episode, we talked about practice. The second episode, we met a new assistant coach. And this past weekend, you guys not only went up to the All-Star Classic, which were exhibitions, unfortunately. So true, people remember those results, but they're not going into the rankings.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where you get some personal satisfaction out of it. You can fine-tune some things, but I guess at the end of the day, people still are going to judge you on those results. But I think the biggest takeaway is that they can't use those matches for seeding at the NCAA tournament. So, we just went up there to compete and get ourselves better, and I felt like we left there with that happening.
You also had a handful of guys go up to the Hokie Open, your redshirts. How important is it for those guys? They probably, you always could pull a red shirt. You've done that over the last few years, unfortunately. But how important is it for your red shirts to get good results this whole season?
Yeah, I think it's key for red shirt, and you want to continue to improve. You want to put yourself in tough situations and environments, kind of testing the weight classes. It's a time where you can move a kid up or down week to week, see where they're going to be their best. It's more for them as individuals to continue to get better. And then ultimately, we can piece the puzzles together for the following year. But that's kind of what we're doing right now, is get everybody valuable experience and continue to grow as a program and leave there with wins, as many wins as we can get.
Now we're going to be moving on to the season. You guys are in action for the first time as a team this weekend, heading up to Troy, New York. Saturday, you guys will be at the Journeyman Duels. You got 3 duels that day. You got Ithaca, number 19, Oklahoma, and the Citadel. And then on Sunday, you're going to be staying up there and competing in the Journeyman Classic. So a lot of guys are going to get a lot of chances to see have some action this weekend.
A lot of wrestling going on in the 518 area. Brother puts on one of the best events in the country. He works extremely hard. It's not an easy thing to pull off, getting all these teams to come up there and compete. And then the second day is such a unique event. And I know it's a challenge on his part to kind of put all the pools together. But ultimately, I think we as a program get all our needs met. We're going to be challenged. Obviously, we'll wrestle in Oklahoma and then Citadel, two programs that we need to be ready to compete against. And then Ithaca, and they're one of the better Division III programs in the country, and that's why we're bringing a lot of guys up there to kind of get everybody what they need on that day as far as dual meets go. But I know we need to be ready to compete. It's our first dual meet of the year. So, a lot of guys are going to be, for the first time, stepping out, wrestling against competition from the outside. So that's always a challenge, not knowing what you're going to get first time down the weight for some guys. We've been fortunate enough to send some guys to some tournaments, so it'll be a good early test on Saturday. As far as Sunday goes, it's going to be a very unique format. Guys get put in the pools, wrestling out. If you win, I think you cross bracket over to the team or the individuals that win that next pool. So it's fun to have. It's not your typical open tournament where you're sitting there advancing in a bracket. You're guaranteed anywhere between 3 and 4 matches depending on how many are in your pool, and that's ultimately what we want this early in the year. We want to make sure we're not over wrestled, getting 7 matches in a day or 6, with the new NCAA rules, how many you can wrestle. And keeping that balance between good, tough, hard-nosed competition and not having, you get in the national tournament, you're usually not wrestling more than 3 or 4 matches a day. So that's kind of the mentality that we want, is go out there and get some really good high-level competition and then just get ourselves better.
And Wolfpack fans, Wolfpack fans, season tickets and single game tickets are now available. Help us fill Reynolds Coliseum each and every duel. Season tickets start at just $15 for youth and seniors and $30 for adults. To purchase your tickets, visit gopack.com/buy tickets. And Pat, you guys were in Reynolds for the first time last year after the renovation. How important is it to have a packed Reynolds Coliseum for our home duels this year.
It's a big part of it, and I think you talking about the season tickets, we definitely got to continue to grow our numbers on that. It's just over the last couple of years, I know it's the first time we've been able to sell season tickets, and it definitely has an impact on our program. So it's important we continue to grow those numbers. If you can't make all the duels, you're at least. We're going to do something special for our season ticket holders. We'll have an announcement on that at some point, but definitely want to cater to the people that are supporting our program. So the more people we can get to sell and buy our tickets, I think it helps with these guys going out there to compete. And we're looking forward to some really big home duels, and we want to get that fan base loud and big in Reynolds.
Again, Wolfpack fans, to purchase your tickets, visit gopack.com/buy tickets. And Pat, now I think it's the time that everybody wants us to get to. We're going to break down your lineup. You have a lot of experience coming back, a big senior class, 10 NCAA qualifiers coming back. How excited are you for this group to get out there on the mats?
Yeah, I can't wait to see the leadership and the experience play out here. This is for the first time, you look back from year one being here at NC State. This is what we've been working towards, is to get that experience, guys that have more than one senior on the team. I think that's volume. That speaks volume for the leadership that we have, and that's going to come in and play a big factor in this year's success when we get in some tough environments.
We're going to start at 125 pounds. Redshirt junior Son Foz is there. Yep. Two-time NCAA qualifier. Last year he was just a win away from All-American honors, ranked in the top 10 in every major poll to start the year. But you also have Tommy Cox. He was pulled out of redshirt last year in December and started 8 duels. So talk about what you see ahead for 125.
I see, both those guys are continuing to improve. Obviously, Sean, coming off a disappointing match away from being an All-American last year, it was a successful season, but I know his mentality is he wanted better than that, and that's made him more hungry this year. And he's definitely made some adjustments technically, and he will continue to get better and put himself in position for that. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, we have Tommy Cox, who's worked extremely hard this offseason to put some size on. He's done that. I think his confidence has grown because of it. And he's got that tough, hard-nosed attitude that we're going to expect a lot out of him this year. And between the two of them, we're going to be in a really good spot at 125 pounds. Starting the year off with Tommy Cox, and then as time goes on, Sean Foz will find his way back in our lineup. But in the meantime, I think they're both going to bring a lot of value to that weight class.
133, it's going to be a different look this year. Basically, all the guys that are competing for that job, they weren't on your mat last year. They were all redshirting. So could you break down 133 for us?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see who steps up and takes that weight class. We had wrestle-offs last week. Jamel Morris came away. So I think if you ask a lot of people, I think, maybe that wasn't expected, but in his mind, at talking to him, he said he's on a mission and he wants to be the guy this year. He certainly showed it this last weekend. But I know we have a lot of depth there and guys that will challenge for that. I think this weekend, getting them all in the same weight class and outside competition, it'll definitely separate probably who's going to be the guy as we move forward. But we got a lot of options there. Tariq Wilson, redshirted last year. Will Clark. It's going to come down to who can balance their weight on a 1-hour weigh-in, and then as the season goes on, is who's going to step up and really separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
141. Really don't have to talk about this guy much, but senior Kevin Jack is a 2-time All-American, starts the season number 2 in every poll. But 141 is a very deep weight class. You have a 2-time national champion in that weight class. But Kevin has put some high expectations on himself this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that is very competitive across the entire weight class as far as depth goes. I like where Kevin's attitude is at right now. Everything he's doing right now is motivated to win a national title. He knows what he needs to do. He's very mature this year and very driven. And I think that's the difference between the years past to this year is his outlook, his attitude, very disciplined with his weight. Everybody thinks it's a hard cut for him, but the kid is so disciplined outside the room that he keeps all that in check. And I think that's what makes him dangerous. He's a tough, challenging, unique style of wrestling, and as being as tall as he is for that weight class definitely throws people off. So I'm excited to see him continue to compete, and our goal is to get him the toughest competition we can this year and face it. And I feel like our schedule has put Kevin in position for that, to see a lot of the best guys in the country.
I would say 149, probably a lot like 133. You had in wrestle-offs. You're going to have 3 or 4 guys looking to compete there each time out. We have redshirt senior Bo Donahue, redshirt junior Jamal Morris, who's moving up for 133, and redshirt junior Sam Malikan, who redshirted last year. So what do you see out of those 3 at 149?
Yeah, I definitely, we have depth there again. And I told the team the other day, I'm looking forward to someone taking this spot and let them make the decision who our guy is. And that's what we're doing right now, is to let these guys all compete, taking out the coach's opinion on anything. I'm going to tell them all the time, I'm going to kick my feet up in the stands and watch these guys wrestle it out. But I trust whoever wins that weight class and takes over the starting spot is going to be ready to compete against anybody in the country. I like the growth and development on everybody's aspect. Bo Donahue probably has, if you look at it, maybe the most experience at that weight class. So, I think he's got that over those guys. But at the same time, Morris has valuable experience down at 33, put some size on growing into that weight class. And after watching Sam Malikan wrestle this weekend, it's no question he wants it. He's hungry. And I think the competition is going to bring out the best guy at this weight class. And once these guys define who the starter is, it's going to make our team that much better. And these guys will be in a good spot because of the competition they bring for each other.
157, you have another newcomer, redshirt freshman Hayden Hidley. He was a decorated recruit that redshirted last year, went 22-3 as a redshirt. In 4 of his tournaments, he won 3 of them. So what are you expecting out of Hayden this year?
I expect big things as well as he does. He's a perfectionist, and he is very driven, very motivated, and he's done everything right to put himself in position to have a big year this year, and his work ethic is what separates him from a lot of people. But his mentality, I know he expects big things from himself, and that's something, he's got to just continue to balance out. It's going to be a little bit of a process. It's his first time going through the grind of the season. Redshirting's one thing, making weight every so often, but making weight back to back, and he's got that discipline as well. And if you look at the people he's competed and beat last year, I feel like he's in a good spot. From what people are expecting from the people that he beat, I think that just speaks volume of what he's on track to do this year. Still got to go out and do it, but I think people, when they come to watch NC State wrestling, are going to walk away and be extremely excited to see what this kid can put on as far as a show and his mentality. It's definitely going to be a fun weight class for us this year.
165, you have a returning starter, redshirt senior Brian Hammond. Kind of an interesting story. His first 2 seasons here at NC State, he was at 149, took a redshirt year and worked his way up to 65 last year. NCAA qualifier and second in the ACC and going 21-13. And this year he finds himself right now ranked in the top 20 by both Intermat and Flow. So just how has the development of him, has he been for you? Yeah,
that's one of the guys that, when I first got here, was one of the guys that we recruited right away. He has made some huge strides on and off the mat. He's very driven in school and does very well academically. I think the maturity is what's made the biggest difference for him. He's made some huge mental gains on the mat. And you watch Brian Hammond in our room, he is good as anybody that we have. And I think last year at the NCAA tournament was kind of his tournament where he gained a ton of confidence, and all he has to do is just continue to be like that mentality that he has right now. I think he's very dangerous. I think he's as good as anybody we have on our roster right now. And, the thing with Brian is he's the one that has to know that, not us as coaches. And I know the guys on the team think that this is going to be a breakthrough season for Brian Hammond, and I'm extremely excited to see all his hard work play out and go out and compete and make this happen. At
174, you have redshirt freshman Daniel Bullard. He was Obviously, he redshirted last season. He saw a lot of action at 65, a couple of tournaments at 74, but he was another top 100 recruit from that 2006 class.
Yeah, a lot like his brother Thomas. Those guys are very hard-nosed, very scrappy. They can scramble. They're very good on top. So, as the time went on this past season, he was down at 65, started to grow out of the weight class a little bit. And as we projected of where we were going to need everybody, it made sense for him to bulk up. And he did a great job this offseason, getting bigger, lifting. Expect big things from him. And I know he does, both the Bullards. They're very competitive, and they're going to be fun to watch. They're the kind of wrestlers when you're always going to be on the edge of your seat because you don't know what they're going to throw at you, and that's what makes their wrestling exciting. And they're always in every match, and it's going to be a dogfight when they're out there wrestling, and the intensity that they bring is one thing that separates them, and something that I respect a lot with those two guys, especially this year getting Daniel on the mat. I think it's going to be fun watching him wrestle 74.
These next two weight classes I'm going to kind of group together because in the offseason, you guys had a tough decision. You had two redshirt seniors here. I'm talking about Pete Renda and Maiku Machiavelli. How did you decide who wrestles what weight this season?
That was pretty simple. Brought these two guys in.
Well, first of all, I butchered Mock's last name.
Machiavello. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We could do an edit redo on that one.
Well, this is a one-take shop, unfortunately.
Right. We're good. Mock, he'll understand. We call him Mock the mayor. Just go by that.
I call him Mock every day.
Just say Mock the mayor. We'll be good. He'll dab you up. Don't worry. No, it was one of those at the end of the year. It was like, all right, which one of you guys wants to eat more than the other? And it was a no-brainer. Machiavello loves to eat. I think that's what, something that he's good at cooking, so he was like, hey, this is easy. We were in a situation, we knew we had two really good guys, and we couldn't afford to not have them both in the lineup. And we also had Malik McDonald. Everybody was itching to move up a little bit. I know it was a big cut on Malik last year. So we sat down and you always want to take care of individuals that are doing things right. And these guys are such great people that we needed to work this out. And that's what makes our team special is these guys are all about the team. And we worked it out really easy just in a little meeting. And everybody agreed that it would be best for them as individuals and for our team if they were able to move up. And they're so committed and hardworking that putting the weight and size on and doing it the right way wasn't going to be an issue. And I'm very thankful of the way it worked out because they are, watching these guys train with each other in the room, I think they complement each other very well, at least Pete and Mock, and then even Mock with Malik. It's just been extremely valuable experience for them to train with each other, and they've made each other better. And I know they all expect big things this year, and they're gonna take personal satisfaction in helping each other accomplish their goals.
Pete redshirted last year. He was a 2016 All-American with a third-place finish. What did you see out of his redshirt season last year that will help him for his final campaign here? I
think it was one of those, anytime you get the redshirt later in your career, like Tommy Gant did, like Nick Wisdowski did, it brings value almost to a perspective of when you can step back, slow things down, and analyze every situation and know that, every match, week to week, you're in it to get better, improve. You want to win and you want to dominate. But at the end of the day, you're doing it to get yourself to that next level when it comes time for the NCAA tournament. And I think that's something Pete realized. He's very mature. I think he mentally matured a lot. And he realized his technique is pretty superior to a lot of the competition that he wrestles against. And, he's very physical and in shape and athletic. So I think sometimes when you're in the stands watching some of your competition compete, you can look at it and say, you know what, there's no question I'm better than this because of, I was able to slow it down and pick apart some things. And I think that's something he did and brought some confidence this year. I think, talking to him after the All-Star duel, he said he was a little bit hesitant because he took that year off on dual meets, and that's going to come with time. But like nothing, he'll be right back in the mix of things, feeling his best as time goes on. But I can't wait as the season goes on to see his progression and his dominance.
And Mock last year, he really had a breakout year. He was one win away from All-American at 184 last year. He's bumping up to 97 this year, ranked in the top 10 in every major poll to start the season. So how has his hard work helped you guys in the weight room this year?
It's helped all around. He defines, when you look at what you need for work ethic commitment for a program, he defines it, and he's a great leader, very driven person. Mock the mayor here on campus because of the kind of his personality talking to everybody. But yeah, I think he's driven. He's got a little bit of chip on his shoulder. He started wrestling late. I know if you look at his progression here at NC State, he started slow and then he hit the ground running each year with improvements made in the off season. And last year was his breakthrough season. I know he's excited to have that opportunity again. He was very disappointed at what he was not able to accomplish last year, but now, as we look back, I think it's helping us because of his drive and his willingness to make sure that doesn't happen again this year. But he's worked extremely hard to technically get better. And Mock's one of those guys. Sometimes you got to hold him back a little bit because he does train so hard and he goes at such a high pace that we focus in to make sure he keeps doing everything he needs to do in his part to put himself in position to win a national title this year.
In our final weight class, 285, you touched on it briefly, but we got a couple guys that are going to compete there. Redshirt junior Malik McDonald, he was an NCAA qualifier last year at 197. And you have senior Michael Boykin, who was actually an NCAA qualifier 2 years ago at 197. So both of these guys have made the jump to heavyweight. What competition is there between those two guys for the starting job?
Yeah, that's, last 2 years, it's been one of those where we've had some close depth with each other. I'm looking forward to see who separates himself, takes that spot. Malik won in a very close match. I think it was a stall call in the difference. So this weekend, hopefully with some outside competition, we can see who's better. But, they both have two different unique styles. So that's the luxury this year is we can mix and match depending on matchups. That's a great thing about having some depth is you can, in dual meets, you can play that card a little bit. But at the end of the day, I want to put out there who earns this spot. And they'll decide that as time goes on. But I do like the passion and the commitment that Malik McDonald put in this offseason to get bigger. And obviously Boykin's committed in the room and has been working a lot with Nick, and they've both been able to train with each other. So it's kind of, that heavyweight's a little different on that island. And those guys, have to basically wrestle each other every day in the room, which makes it tough if you actually have to wrestle off. And I think that's why you saw in that wrestle off, it was basically came down to a stall call, evenly matched. And it's hard for those guys. Wrestle offs at any weight, let alone heavyweight, when they're in there battling each other every day, going out in competition and trying to wrestle off.
Well, Pat, I think that puts a wrap on this episode. It was great to hear about the team. I know everybody is looking forward to this season, and this weekend, is really exciting. The whole team will be up there, going to get a lot of matches, and you're going back to your home state actually yourself. Yes,
always look forward to going up to upstate New York. See a lot of people who grew up wrestling. That's where it all started. And then obviously brother running a first-class event there, Journeyman Classic, and the people that are connected to that, it's a first-class event, and as well as the food that I get to see when I'm home with my mom and dad. So I'm looking forward to all of that.
Well, I hope you bring us some food back. Maybe at the next podcast we'll do a luncheon. Who knows?
That'd be perfect.
And I want to thank everybody for listening. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Until next time, Wolfpack fans, go Pack.
Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MatTalkOnline.com.